Hey, it is Friday, April 11th, 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, right here on the West Coast. I am Brannon Beliso. This is Success Never Sleeps, where we, as a collective of small business owners, in particular, martial arts school owners, try to figure out this thing called life. We want to create these successful businesses that work for us, provide us with freedom to do the things we want, to save for our retirement, to take care of our kids' colleges, to expand and grow as needed, and create a lifestyle that we truly deserve. But that requires a skill set, right? And today we're going to dive deep into ChatGPT. I've worked a lot with it over the past year or so, and I understand its components and the way it can benefit us, and as well as where it can be very, very harmful to our brand and our business. So we're going to get into the yin and the yang, the highs and the lows, the light and the dark. But let's begin by thanking our sponsors. As always, we have Tusaw Market Muscles, My Studio, Kids Love Life Skills, LC Accounting, and Kin Creative. Again, these are companies I work with. These are companies I partner with. These are companies that have had an impact on helping me cultivate these two martial arts businesses that do close to $2 million a year. And we're up about 985 students right now between the two locations. So again, if you have any questions about these great services, maybe we'll post their links in the chat so you can be able to connect with them directly. Just tell them that Brannon Beliso sent you. Hey, what's happening, Bob? How are you today? Bob Poole from Goals Martial Arts. As you come aboard, say hello. Tell us where you're tuning in from. We always appreciate that. We know a lot of people watch the broadcast, but I'm just very humbled when people take time out of their busy day and their busy schedule to physically hang out with me while I do this podcast. And I'm super grateful because I don't ever really have guests unless it's something that's very time sensitive or timely or needed. I like to be with my listeners, with my friends and followers, and really share my most intimate, heartfelt, vulnerable thoughts about what I've learned and experienced and research to give you what I consider, if not the best information to help you create your version of success, but at least a very personal uh, vision filled with intent, filled with the true desire to want to help you create that version of success because you deserve it. Cool? What do we got coming up, Marco? We have It's Time Live Freedom in this November, 8th through 11th, right here in Millbrae, California, 5 minutes from SFO. It's a retreat. It's a pilgrimage. People have come as far as Germany, Canada, England, Switzerland. They've come to us to really help get unstuck, to find clarity, to learn the skill set they need to be a successful martial arts instructor, school owner, leader, entrepreneur. It's a 4-day, very, very intense. Only 20 school owners will be invited to that event. Then Marco will put the link in there for you. I encourage you to sign up now before April 15 tax time. Get the tax write-off, which is right around the corner, and choose to be with us. We just got off our It's Time group mentoring. It's very powerful, and it's something I highly recommend that you do. I find these once a month mastermind groups just never worked well for me. And the weekly things without purpose or intent was just, sometimes a complain session, a BS session. And it's so important to me that the work we do is catered each month to the different areas of business that you work in, and to be able to have somebody in your back pocket to text anytime you need, not this once a week call for 30 minutes, but have that type of luxury, and is so powerful in everything that we do. So we invite you, come audit. You're welcome to come join us for a discovery call. You can sit in on one of our It's Time group mentoring sessions. I think if you do, you will see the value that we offer. Cool. So what is it all about today? Right? It's all about ChatGPT and how to best use it in your business. Now, we hear the two schools of thought, how amazing it is. It's the fifth industrial, revolution, and AI is going to be it, and it's going to just move us in this direction. And I saw somebody post, with AI, you're only going to be working 2 days a week, right, for your job. Well, are you going to get paid for 5? That's going to be a scary thought. We think about opening all these new factories in the United States, which is the intent of our government, is to bring, factories back here. The challenge is with all these new factories, predominantly are going to be robots and AI. So how many real people do they need? How much manpower do they genuinely need? We're not talking about a factory post World War II. Now, I use all this information because all of this is what's either inspiring you to look at ChatGPT as a reliable resource in streamlining different systems and processes in your business via what's called automations, or you're completely shutting it because you believe it's Terminator. I think there's a healthy balance in the middle between the two. And hopefully today, I'm going to help shed some light on that based upon my own personal experiences with that. Cool? Cool, cool, cool. All right. And if you're coming aboard, say hello. Tell us where you're tuning in from. Again, I love knowing who's here. I love knowing where your schools are at, especially when, I get Bob every week. I count on Bob being here, and I'm grateful he's here every week. It just warms my heart. I can't help but always think of your mama when you're here, Bob. I just do. I just do. I just do. And the whole meaning behind Gold's martial arts. Maybe one day we should open that. Was it confection? Was it cookie or a chocolate? A chocolate store she wanted to open. Do I remember that correctly, Bob? Go ahead and put that in the comments, sir. Maybe one day we need to open one. So I was one of those people at first because I grew up in a time there were no cell phones, no personal computers. There wasn't even the internet. So I come from a very different time. And I don't say that to date myself. I say that because I believe I'm very much rooted. See, chocolate candies. I remember that, huh, Bob? I do, I do. So I say that with a very deep sense of balance, a very deep sense of value for a time where we weren't simply staring into cell phones all the time. Walk through the airport, I'm almost, you know, invisible. Where back when there were no phones and there were no computers, everybody interacted. Everybody had something they wanted to say to each other because that was what fed us. That's what created that balance. So I'm going to share with you that today, if you choose to leverage ChatGPT and simply let it write your social media posts, you let it write your blogs, several things happen here. When I ran into ChatGPT, I fed through it. If you have 10 different martial arts schools using AI generated content and stock photos for their website or their digital marketing, will that hurt their SEO? And you know what ChatGPT told me in all its glory? Yes, it will. Yes, it will. Here's why. And number one is because there's nothing original. Number two, the algorithms see that it's just generated content that everybody else uses. So I think even ChatGPT gets, if you don't put any thought into your business, then why should they let you rank higher? Why do you deserve their trust? And then it went on to say, here are some things we suggest. Be original. Define their pain points or their service points and answer how is it that you and your service are best suited to solve their challenges or problem. So it went on, and they were all very real things we talk about when it comes to marketing. Okay, so we had that discussion, and here's how I believe ChatGPT can work well. And I'm going to give you one of my personal processes. Now, I have one of the top blogs. If you go to Google right now and look up martial arts blog, I have one of the top blogs. And I'm proud to say all of it is original content. When I started writing my blog, I'm a writer. I would never let ChatGPT write for you. I never even used a ghostwriter. I thought that was really weird that somebody else would write this book for me and I'd put my name on it. It just never, ever, ever, ever seemed right, made sense. And it took out, like I was sharing in my It's Time group mentoring group, it took out that thing of you learning to tell your own story. You need to tell your story, and ChatGPT can't do that. So when I write a blog, I write a blog. I write my blogs now in Grammarly. And I like Grammarly because it'll spell check things. Okay. But with that said, I'm ever mindful that, when I learned to write magazine articles for MA Success, that grammatically, a lot of it is incorrect. And it's supposed to be because it's conversational. Hey, what's up? There's one of our sponsors, Letitia from LC Accounting. Busy with tax time, I'm sure. If you need a great bookkeeper, do reach out to Letitia at LC Accounting. And so I'll write in Grammarly, and if Grammarly says spell check this, I'm fine. If Grammarly wants to change a sentence because it's phonetically not correct, sometimes I will overrule it and say no, leave it alone because it's conversational, and not all conversational is correct English, right? So I think that's the big part there. But the one thing that's really been a discipline of mine in leveraging ChatGPT is, I will say, is there any AI plagiarism? That's a big one. Because if there is AI plagiarism, what happens when you post that, you will get dinged. The algorithms know that this is not original content. There's nothing unique about your brand, nothing special. I think from my viewpoint, it's just lazy. You are the storyteller, the architect of your business. You need to draw the drawings to build your house of success, right? As the architect, you wouldn't go to ChatGPT and say, build me a house, give me plans to build a house. No, it's very unique to your own vision. And I think that's important because, as I shared in the It's Time group mentoring today, I'm exposed to so much information, be it on TV, be it when I'm scrolling through my cell phone, be it when I'm sitting in a seminar, be it when I listen to somebody's podcast, be it when I read somebody's book. So I believe with all intents, that you could subliminally be latched onto somebody else's quote or saying or thing, and you regurgitate it. Now, stay with me. Rock and roll is the same three chords, right? The difference is who's playing it. That's the big difference. And the lyrics and the hook, that's what makes it special and different. So it's pretty much the same thing here. If you can take those same three chords, let's say it's a mom helping, wanting her child to become more confident, right? Universal theme in the martial arts. But you can say it in such a unique way, and you say it again and again and again and again and again and again consistently, you will earn trust in digital marketing, in social media, in the internet as a whole, as an authority on that subject. So I think that's real important. So there's a classic example. I've written a blog. I write it in Grammarly to get proper grammar. I will have the discipline because of my own unique writing style to overrule a lot of what Grammarly tells me to change. And I will check it for AI plagiarism. Now, stay with me. I will take that blog, I will put it into ChatGPT, and I will say, do not change any of my content, but I would like you to cut it up into 8 social media posts. Then let's schedule it out. So the whole month of that blog, the shelf life of the blog, because I write a new blog every month, the shelf life of that blog now gets extended because it's in smaller sound bites, smaller pieces. And of course, at the end of that small entry, it will say, for more blogs and information, go to here. And again, that gets them to my website now, and they're reading about One Martial Arts, or they're reading about at brannonbeliso.com. See that process? Is that cool? I think it's really cool. It's really, really cool. But like, for example, with what you do, Letitia, it's very easy to sit there and take everything somebody's done, scan it all, and throw it into ChatGPT or any other AI software and say, give me a tax return. I want a profit and loss. I need a budget sheet. But it will still take that unique set of eyes to go through all that information and look for inconsistencies and anomalies. Because make no mistake, ChatGPT and everything else out there makes mistakes. Because who wrote the program? A human. So it still makes mistakes, right? And with all the privacy laws, there's a lot of stuff you're going to look for that you simply can't get off ChatGPT, right? So stay with me on this. So that's an example. Another example, I was working with one of my clients, and I said, well, the first thing we need to do, as you're a mom and pop business, you're teaching 5 hours a day, back to back to back to back to back classes, is I want to set it up so you get a 10-minute break between every class. And the first reply was, well, how do I do that if there's no time between classes? Well, you get somebody else to warm up the class and do the stretch. Okay, well, how do we do that? Well, in the old days, I would tell you to take a yellow legal pad, write out everything that you do, and then take that and write it into a system so that a team could read it as a lesson plan, and then also a system that you can train them on it. Wow, there's a lot of steps there. So here we go today. I can videotape that warm up, right? I can take it and put it in. ChatGPT doesn't do this yet. I can't physically load a video into ChatGPT and say, transcribe this into text for me, right? It can't do that yet. So, but there's third-party apps it recommended right away and said, put it in here. It will translate that video. It's no different than adding captions on videos you make, right? So it takes transcribes all of it into a Word document, a text document. Then you put it back into ChatGPT. And you say to ChatGPT, please write a lesson plan for this warm up and stretch. Okay, stay with me. Then please write a system or process to train a team on in a martial arts school. You want to go deeper? I can say, give it the language that would appeal to a 15 to 18-year-old, if that's your core team. And if they're all assistants warming up the class, that's probably who they're going to be. Then let's go a step further. I can say, write it in a cultural sense, utilizing language from the onemartialarts.com website. Then, if I wanted to go deeper, I can say, make it sound like Brannon Beliso and his mantra of live your best life. So the possibilities are endless, but what that doubles back to is this. I want to go about utilizing ChatGPT or any other AI platform. Canva is an AI platform. There's a lot of AI software and apps and things that are out there that you may not even recognize are purely AI. Purely. And AI is defined as what? Artificial intelligence. Okay? And so, with that said, I have to have a very clear vision of who I am, a very clear vision of what my brand is and my why. So before you even begin going down this rabbit hole of ChatGPT, I'm going to challenge you today to know your why. Why do I want to come to you versus Joe Cruddy down the street? I want to challenge you to write a purpose statement. Right? A guy sent me his purpose statement yesterday and said, what do you think of this? I said, well, I think it's pretty good. I didn't like the word location, at our location. So I went into ChatGPT and said, give me, it's like a thesaurus, right? Give me 10 different ways to say location, place, community, different things like that. I went, okay. So then I had 10 different words to choose from. That makes sense to me. But I wouldn't have taken this guy's purpose statement and say, ChatGPT, can this be written better? Right? I mean, you could do that and then reverse engineering and work backwards. So again, because I'm very clear on my why and what my vision is as an architect, like O.S. Smith said, we're drowning in information and we're starving for wisdom. That wisdom is your personal why. Because once you know that personal why, you can happily, with confidence, go into ChatGPT and Canva and pick a template for a flyer, or, work on your website or work on your business page and do these different things because you have clear guardrails. I'll say that for the lack of a better example. You have clear guardrails on what your brand means to you, right? What's your unique service point? Why do I want to come to you versus Joe Karate down the street? That's very important because when I'm looking through ChatGPT and it says, well, you should say this better, does it fit my why? And that's the foundation of our total existence in my businesses. If anything we do fulfills the why of live your best life, we act on it. And if it doesn't, we're done. We're done. Table it. We're not having this discussion. So that's the cool thing about that, because it's principles versus personalities. It's not me being an egocentric person saying it's my way or the highway. No, collectively agreed 15 years ago, live your best life is our why. We collectively agreed on a purpose statement. We are one, a community dedicated to serving you in every moment to live your best life. We all committed to that. So when we make choices, we act from this purpose. We act from our why. So nobody's, trying to one up each other because it's my way or the highway. I'm the boss. Do as I say. No, this is a collective. This is a collective, which I think part of our big success is because of that. It's a very millennial Z thinking. And when people can take ownership of what they do, they think more like an owner and they think more like you would. And I don't, I realize when the day's done, nobody will think like me completely. But if they can take ownership and have that autonomy, it allows me the freedom I experience today, most days. You with me? Okay. So here's another example of the extreme. And I share this because I'm big on research, and I learned that when I spoke at Harvard for the My Studio Summit, Business Summit, and I was blessed to sit in on the professors from Harvard who also spoke at this event. And Harvard's whole philosophy and principle centers around case study, case study, studying other examples or similar to what it is I'm trying to achieve, and learning to think from a case study mindset. And it's the same thing here. I apply that same type of questioning that you see in the thought process of Harvard in a case study. This is how we look at it: step one, step two, step three, to deduce why they're making money or not making money, to deduce here's the pathway we need to take, to deduce we should shut down this business and start a new one, to deduce, how I can word this to get funding from a company, on and on and on. So I'm really inspired by that. So I encourage you, no matter what it is, right down to something as simple as, buying new mats. Wouldn't you do your research? Wouldn't you look up Reddit groups for case studies on why this guy likes Fuji versus this guy liking, Swain mats versus this guy liking Zebra? I wouldn't just take somebody's word, I love it. No, I would want to compare it. So having multiple resources is also important. But we, as a whole, as an industry, find no value in it. You should. A lot of value. Because you'll watch a brand start to come together and you wonder, wow, if I didn't do this work with Brannon 5 years ago, I wouldn't be here right now. It wouldn't be like this. I would still be stumbling and fumbling in the dark, calling my school my instructor's school name and the left pine tree on the third Thursday. And, my patch would be a silhouette of a guy kicking. That's not a brand. That's not a brand. That's just regurgitated stuff from the 1980s. And I say that passionately because now what's happening is if you go into ChatGPT and you start asking it the wrong questions, it's going to grab low hanging fruit. It's not going to grab the best information for you. It will grab the silhouette of somebody kicking. If I put what is the most used logo in the martial arts industry, it is a silhouette of somebody kicking. And so, what's the average person going to do that doesn't have a why? Oh, great. If it's good for everybody, I should do the same thing. Monkey see, monkey do. So, the other thing I have found with ChatGPT that's really a joy is it will challenge me and question my thinking, and I'll ask it to challenge me. So, it's drawing from information, infinite amount of information. So, it can often give me a different perspective that may not have me totally abandon whatever task I'm working on, but it will allow me to tweak it and it will influence it because it opens my mind to go down a different rabbit hole. I know this sounds really deep, but I believe in the next 10 to 20 years, this is what's going to separate great brands from mediocre brands. And you're going to rise to the top in your community as I ask that question. And I ask that question every day of myself. Why do people want to come to us versus any other child's activity. It is not the martial arts school down the street. Number one activity is soccer. Soccer. The second one, I think, was baseball or swimming. Third is martial arts. So I'm perplexed that if we're the third most popular activity children do, why are we still not, as big as an industry as soccer? We're third. So again, I believe our ability to educate ourselves on a level that we can compete with those other types of children's activity will be that pathway. Cool? Now, hey James, from the great Rocky Mountains, Resilient Martial Arts. If anyone who's here, please tell me who you are, where you're tuning in from. I always appreciate that. I like to know who's listening and on the show. So, we talked about how I use ChatGPT to check my blogs, to schedule my blogs, to make sure they're not AI generated in any way. There's no plagiarism. We talked about how I can videotape my warm up and stretch, throw it into an app that will transcribe it, right? Like adding captions, it'll transcribe it. Then I'm going to take that transcription in a Word document, load it up into ChatGPT, and tell ChatGPT to please write this into a lesson plan. Please write this into a system to train teenagers between the ages of 15, 18. Please write it in a language they're familiar with. Please write it based upon our purpose of live your best life. See, so I'm able to set these parameters for my needs without having to do the legwork. It's like having a bunch of robots and you stand there and say, I want you to build me 4 walls. The room needs to be 20 by 20. Use these 2x4s. Use this nail gun. Go. And it'll build it for you. These robots would be programmed to do exactly what you want it to do. No more, no less. And they will do it faster than a group of humans ever could do it. And that's the future. That is definitely the future. I see that happening. Totally. I think I shared that in my last group mentoring call. We're talking about building factories here, and I'm going to go off for a minute because this is the truth. They're going to bring all the factories back to America, but these new factories in 2025 are going to be AI dominated. It's not like 50 years ago where a guy stood on an assembly line and he turned a screwdriver like this to build a car. It's now going to be robotics and all AI generated. And so these new jobs that are supposed to come here to America, I don't believe they're going to be what we think they are. And it's the same thing with martial arts schools. I saw a robot last night doing tornado kicks and all these different things. And I was like, damn, that guy kicks better than any guy I've ever seen in the martial arts. 10 times faster, 10 times more athletic. But here's the big difference. It will never be you. So again, you have to double down and lean into humanism and use it as a system, that helps support your vision and your why. Everybody with me? So I got to talk about this because you're either going to be totally afraid of ChatGPT and AI and just disregard it, or you're going to use it because you're lazy and undisciplined. Don't let that happen. Please don't let that happen. Okay? So that's another way that I use it. Here's another example that I think is really cool. Is you can use it for formatting. I love the different opportunities to format a system, format a process. Write me an introduction letter. I did that with one of my clients yesterday. He said, how do I break into the elementary schools? He says, how do I approach them? I said, well, let's begin here. Who are you trying to approach? It was Blue Willow Elementary School. Okay, let's find out who the principal is. Boom. Let's find out who is the head of the PTA there. Boom. We had names. But because of privacy laws, ChatGPT is not going to tell you where they live and what they eat and all that. But stay with me now. If you know something of the person, and like my wife does when we're looking for a new employee, she doesn't just look at their resume. She goes to their Facebook and their Instagram and tries to look at their posts. You can physically, if their stuff is public, take someone's URL at Facebook and say, what are the top 3 things this person loves? They like chocolate ice cream. Wonderful. Maybe send that principal some chocolate ice cream. How about that? It's better than some generic letter of introduction, right? So again, it can help you do that. So what we did is we knew who the principal was, we knew who the PTA president was, we knew the address of the school. Great. Now let's take the calendar from the Unified School District and plug in as much information as we can about this school, because there's nothing better. And in the old days, when we didn't have this type of technology, what would a salesperson say to you on the phone? Anybody know? Brand new salesperson on the phone. There's one thing they'll always say to you. Anybody? Who remembers that far back? Come on. I want this to be a little interactive. And as you're coming aboard, say hello. Marty from Black Dragons here. Hey, what's up, Marty? What's up, Marty? Anybody else here that hasn't said hello? Please let us know you're here. What is it that they would always say? A salesperson. How's the weather in California? I would get that all the time. Whoever got that one from a salesperson, put it in the comment. How's the weather? Now, the yin to the yang of that, if you're too damn creepy and you know way too much about them, that's a scary thing. That's a very scary thing. Michael Hutchins, what's happening, man? Welcome, welcome, sir. Welcome. That's a scary thing, right? But as Stephen Reinsteins of Market Muscles has shared with me, our ideal avatar is Research Rita. She's gone to your website. She looked at your Google business page. She might even look at your social media. That's why I need to be mindful of what I post at social media. Super mindful, right, of what goes at that social media. And they know more about you than you do. And that's powerful. Well, it's the same thing here. And how you strategically use that information, looking at the school calendar, looking at the school itself, looking at the principal and the PTA president, you could strategize on how to best approach them. Do I believe just walking to the school cold calling and walking up to the front, administrative office and asking for an audience with the principal? That's never going to happen. Ever, 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 ever. It's a very rough place to be. But if I know enough about you and I look at that calendar for that elementary school and they have an e-waste event coming up, and if I can reach out to the PTA president and say, hey, I'm so and so from One Martial Arts. I would love to donate my time to help support the school with e-waste. We work with a lot of kids that go to your school, and the band played on. You with me? But see, I come in there with a very clear set of strategies, and that was because of ChatGPT. That was because of the research that I did beforehand. Again, think Harvard. Do your research. Do your research. And the best way to get into a school is not by walking in there with donuts in August while they're doing lesson plans and say, hey, how you doing? I'm Brannon from One Martial Arts. Here's some donuts because you're working hard. They see right through that. But again, through the research you can now do with AI, you can know a lot about that elementary school before you ever, ever, ever decide, am I going to call, show up, volunteer my time, write a letter of introduction, be introduced from a mom whose kid goes to my martial arts school and is actually on the PTA board. See, there's so many different ways to get in there, but as they always say, do your homework. Do your homework. But if you're living in fear of I need 10 new students to make my rent, so you think just magically going the elementary school is going to fix that? Bad day. Bad day. You with me? So that's why I think ChatGPT is very powerful. We sat there and asked a lot about this school, colors of that, everything about it, everything about it. And it wouldn't give us private information about the principal and the PTA president. But you know what? We could have very easily went to Facebook and got a URL if we could have found the person there. Easily. But because of privacy laws, ChatGPT won't tell us anything more than that. So I think that's powerful in that respect. You with me? If you're using ChatGPT in any special way, please post it in the comments and I'll be grateful to elaborate on that for you. Cool? Now, here's something that was extremely disturbing that I researched today. And I because I am a thinker and I believe the power of ChatGPT to take my thinking and turn it into processes and systems quickly and efficiently, into lesson plans quickly and efficiently without ever changing what I have to say, is probably one of the greatest things ever. I used to sit in Pete's Coffee, spend 3 hours to write one simple 8-step system. Whereas now, yeah, Meta AI is pretty good. Yeah, I use Meta for a lot of insights. We study it for running Facebook ads and things like that. Yeah, absolutely. But that's why they dominate the stock market. Google, Microsoft, Meta, right? Amazon. Amazon's totally AI. Right? So all these platforms are designed, we think it's social media. It's all about the AI. When I watched Facebook, I went to speak at Facebook when they were becoming Meta, Michael, and this was really interesting because they fundamentally said at that time, it was right as we were coming out of the pandemic, I did a talk on global leadership post pandemic, right? Talking to all the leaders of their different teams. And they fundamentally pre-framed new with, we are a startup with 80,000 people. And at that time, they were leaning hard into the, metaverse, right? That's why the company is called Meta now, but people still will call it Facebook, right? But it's called Meta on the stock market and everywhere else. But they saw AI and they saw the writing on the wall. They didn't totally abandon their VR headset and all that, but they pivoted harder into AI to understand that we want to be at the forefront of that thinking. And so, yeah, the AI, even at Meta, is pretty sophisticated. So, processes. Does everyone use Canva? Canva is AI generated. And that's another one. Anyone that does these handwritten signs and things like that in your school, I'm just going to, want to come kick you really hard. I'm serious, because it's like there's no reason for that. There's no reason. I've been at Canva now for a couple years, and I'm enthralled with the technology and how quickly it moves, and the possibilities. Now, again, I like creating original content. I don't just grab templates. And I think that's a big mistake because, again, too much AI generated templates, you take at face value and just change some of the copy, you're going to get flagged. It's going to hurt your SEO over time. It simply will, because what is going to stand out from all of the AI generated content is originality, is originality. And so that's going to be even more of I don't want to say deal breaker. It's really the cream of the crop's going to rise to the top. When people have such original content, but they're tempering it with some of the, powers of AI, that's what's going to happen. But if everybody here stays here because they're lazy, they're undisciplined, or they don't know what they don't know, then again, you're just walking the same path as everybody else. The creators, you either look at social media, it's people who are creating content that are making, some of these influencers are making $300,000 a month at YouTube. Crazy, right? Crazy, but it's not. It's not. So the creativity needs to be there. And I pre-frame the whole thing with that. Know your why, know your purpose, know those different things, because it's going to separate you. It's going to answer the question, why do I want to come to you versus any other child's activity out there in the world? Okay? But I'm not going to sit there and write code to get this kid to wiggle, in a graphic I'm making at Facebook. No way. I just simply go to Canva and hit the little wiggle button, and the one image I have is looking like they're sparring or kicking. You with me? Yeah, I just posted one that I did. Did everybody see that? Take a look at that. So again, the guy who grew up without a cell phone because there were none. I remember when I got a beeper. You remember pagers and beepers? So I come from a different era, but I think that's why I have such a curiosity for the technology that's out there, because I wasn't born into it. But I also approach that technology from two angles that I think are extremely valuable, and why the learning I'm offering you is something you should consider. Number one is, I'm wise enough to see the value, but I'm old enough. They're two different things. I'm old enough to recognize that time where not having a cell phone, not having a computer, not having the internet allowed me to develop thinking and common sense that's extremely valuable. And the satirical play in that scene in The Matrix where he plugs his like this and they download and he looks, he goes, I know Kung Fu. You guys are lifetime martial artists. Could you imagine just being able to plug into a computer and they can download a program on Kung Fu and you're all of a sudden bouncing around fighting Lawrence Fishburne? Think about that, right? That is not how humans develop, nor should they at all. At all. So, your ability to double down on your story of how to go from a white belt to a black belt and have a very clear meaning of why you find what you do of value in the community, and then you can leverage that with ChatGPT for best practices for a Facebook ad, best practices for writing a header. I just went to my entire Market Muscles website and I'm constantly updating it. Why? Because of SEO. The AI algorithms that are combing around the internet do not want to go to your Google business page and see that your last review was 2015. And that's why getting new reviews is so important. Updating your photos at your website is so important. Something as minute as scrutinizing a header on the camp page, right? As boring as it is, summer day camp, the best summer day camp in San Francisco and Millbrae. Boring as all can be, but the AI key search, software is going, there you go, because the most searched thing at Google is day camps in San Francisco, right? So something as basic as that. But I want to be mindful that in that discipline of putting summer day camp everywhere on that landing page, I am still infusing the why and the purpose of why you want to come to my school. Cool? And part of that discipline was taking the URL of the day camp, putting it into ChatGPT, and ask them, how can I improve this landing page so I get better SEO? And so a mom would be inspired and curious to opt in. Is that crazy? You guys with me on that? How often, here's a question from Black Dragon. How often do you update? Every day. Every day, sir. Every day. And again, I saw the writing on the wall during the pandemic while schools were closing left and right and arguing in Facebook groups why people can't learn virtually. I led the charge. I led the charge and we did really well during the pandemic because I saw the writing was on the wall. As much as I don't like Terminator and it's scary as all can be, I realize there are some components and attributes there, Marty, that can definitely help my business. Definitely help my business. But the beauty of being human, each one of you are special and different and unique, and you can't be afraid to cultivate that because that is going to be what's going to stand out from all of it. So every day, Marty, every day, whether it's the Facebook group, the Instagram group, I don't use TikTok. It's not my thing. I don't believe our audience lives there other than to do a dance routine or something. So I'm not concerned about the vanity metric. I don't care how many views I get. If it's going to yield one student that's going to stay for 4 years, I'm good with that. I'm totally good with that. What I'm not okay with in the realm of AI now is these digital media companies that are so damn lazy that they're going to generate AI generated copy and use some kid, that looks like an anime character, right? Hey, who has seen it? Anybody with me? Yeah, 2 blogs a month. That's cool, Michael. Yeah, yep, yep. Again, as long as it's original content, as long as it's relevant and consistent, it's powerful. If you Google, I do have one of the top 3 martial arts blogs, I believe, right now. And it's very consistent. It supports my One Martial Arts. It supports my consulting at brannonbeliso.com, all of it. But it's consistent. And the AI algorithms look at me and go, it's original. We like it. That ranks higher with us, right? Because everybody has a unique story and you got to tell it. You can't be afraid. Nobody cares who you are. No one's going to listen. Yeah. So go ahead and rip off Joe Rogan and Gary Vee and simply regurgitate that stuff because you want metrics that says if you talk this way and act this way, you're going to get sales. Yeah, it's that way with influencers, right? They're looking for trends every day. And if the trend, I just watched this one at Netflix, you got to watch it, called The Bad Influencers or something. It's really sad what they do to these young kids. Really, really, really sad. Really sad. But some of them are generating $300,000 a month. They're monetized their YouTube channel to that point, right? To that point. So you're just trying to own a 3 to 5 mile radius. Please make no mistake of that. You want to own a 3 to 5 mile radius. So to do that, right, I want to streamline a lot of the processes in my school, like making a flyer, right? But I've got to make sure it's got my brand colors. I got to make sure my logo's in there. I got to make sure I'm marketing from the why versus the what, right? The piece, the Golden Circle. Watch it by Simon Sinek, one of the most watched TED Talks. Most people market from how. What are we? A martial arts school. That's why your flyer, the biggest thing on it is your logo, where that should be the smallest. Some people get to the how, quality martial arts instruction and life skills. If you're kid centric, very seldom do people market from the why. And you have to be willing to do that if you want to make an emotional connection with your avatar. So you could put in a subject line of an email, we teach focus and discipline, or you could say, would you like your child to be a better listener? Of course, the second one will spark curiosity. The challenge with ChatGPT, you know what it's going to say? Rock solid confidence. Rock solid confidence. It's in every ad out there for some of these digital media companies. So I'm going to call out, you're lazy. You're lazy. When you're trying to push on us, hey, use this AI generated Santa the holiday season because it tests really well and it's gone viral. It has nothing to do with the relationships I'm trying to create in a 3 to 5 mile radius of my brick and mortar location. You with me? You with me? And I say this passionately, because I taught 5 hours yesterday. I sat there at 8:30 and sat with a family that needed support, after a long day. And that's what we do that's so special. And that's something ChatGPT will never quantify. But if I have a clear enough story and I put it into ChatGPT and I say, take my 10,000 words, format it into 9 chapters in the book, and give me an outline, as long as you set the parameters and it's very disciplined, don't change a single word. Just format it. I have a lot of trust in that process when it saves me months of editing, months of formatting a book, and it's going to do it for me. But make no mistake, you better proofread every doc. You better go through it with a fine-tooth comb because there's anomalies in ChatGPT all the time. All the time. And you go, what the heck is that? It's just because, remember, there's tons of information, and it's very easily to look at information that might come across to ChatGPT as bike, and what it really is an electric scooter. And it's going to throw that, hypothetically. You with me? Because there's certain things like that that still just are not refined, are just not refined yet. And that's why sometimes you notice when you do captions at Facebook or anywhere like that, it's like, that's not how you spell my name. Or, hey, I didn't say it that way, because it's still working with a set of coding and processes that may not, because of the way you personally speak and phrase words, it might hear it differently. So you better go through that and correct it, right? Somebody even said to me, they intentionally misspell words so people know that their writing is human. Wow, that's crazy, right? When we're trying to be perfect in an imperfect world, things become sterile. Very challenging. So again, I'm a huge advocate of Grammarly. Please start using that and use ChatGPT and use Canva. And you'll see it floating around, every social media platform. Here's stop doing this. No need to go to college. Learn these 25 AI, apps. And 3 of the top ones are Canva, Grammarly, and ChatGPT. And for what we do, I think those are pretty much the 3 you need right now, but you need to spend time in them. And I think that's the other thing is we don't see the value because we're so fixated on getting 10 new students that we never stop to realize just how valuable these tools are in helping our business tremendously, tremendously. I can't express it enough. I really, really can't. And of course, the guy with no computer and cell phone was leery to all of this. My car drives itself. There you go. Will that be freaking valuable when I'm 85 and I can't drive and I still want to be independent? You know it. Call me the robot taxi all day, every day. Let me get into my car and it'll drive me to Trader Joe's all day, every day. Am I thinking of buying one of those robots? Hell yeah. If it means I'm going to be independent and I don't have to go live in an assisted living when I'm 90, all day, every day. So see the balance there? See the balance that we're striving for? And the extreme of that, and I want to share this story with you. I saw it today and it was really sad. You know, we can now, when a loved one dies, we can have an AI generated avatar made of them. Yeah. Give them enough video footage, data, pictures and all that on that person, especially somebody like me with tens of thousands of hours of broadcasts like this, right? Of all my car talks at Facebook. You could probably make a legit avatar of me. But to sit there and talk to an avatar of a dead person. This person was saying, I tried to do it with my dad because we didn't really have a great relationship. And it just made me depressed, made me sad because it wasn't really my dad. And I was searching for answers. And this avatar couldn't give it to me, this AI generated avatar. So that's the extreme. That's very sad and dangerous. And I want us to be mindful of that. So, where do we begin? Be very clear on your why, be very clear on your brand, be very clear on your brand message and who you are, and then write things. Be an original and leverage Grammarly and ChatGPT to support that. Use ChatGPT to write a system, use ChatGPT to write a process and learned because it's machine learning. The more you work with ChatGPT, the more it understands the way you think. Scary as that is, I can go to ChatGPT right now and say, write this post the way Brannon Beliso would say it. And when I look at it word for word for word, it's about 80% of the way I talk, but never the way I think. All right, Marco. Let's wrap this big dog up. And if you got any questions, post them in the comments, okay? I really thought long and hard about today's topic because I don't want to present again, I'm going to be a little derogatory, some 20-year-old with no life experience that's an expert coder that games all the time, that has no sense of empathy or compassion or humanism because one, they're young, they're still developing. Two, their whole world they grew up in was simply AI generated. Whether they're playing Minecraft or they're looking at a reel at TikTok through a filter, whatever, their whole existence has been cultivated through technology. And that to me is extreme imbalance. So I wanted to try to give you a heartfelt perspective, but I also wanted to share my personal investment into AI generated software and programs and how we leverage that so people take their own attendance in our school. How we leverage that so all our transactions are done through an app. How we leverage that to create lesson plans and systems. How we leverage that to take something like my book and create blogs for it without changing the language at all. That's the beauty of it. But it will never replace that one-on-one relationship you have with a student or a parent or a family or your team. That you need to double down and triple down on. You with me? And that yin-yang balance is what's going to help you create your version of success and help you create and grow and increase the success of your school. It works for us all day, every day. Every day. But I do not believe, as some people are believing, that these robots will replace us as martial arts instructors. Never, ever, never, ever. Watch Iron Giant a million times. Sure, I like it that way. But there's no freaking way that robot could have sat there last night and talked to this family I spoke to. Double down and triple down on that to counter and balance your investment in AI. Cool? All right. So let's thank our sponsors, Marco. Who do we have? To Saw, Market Muscles, My Studio, Kids Love Life Skills, LC Accounting, and Kin Creative. All people I love and work with. Again, Market Muscles, My Studio, AI, Kin Creative, AI. We're leveraging a lot of that in our work, and people I love and trust and have impacted my life and my business tremendously. We also have coming up, It's Time Live, Freedom. It's all about creating freedom. That's why you have a business, to create freedom. That's November 8th through 11th, right here in San Francisco, California. Actually, Millbrae, 5 minutes from SFO. It's a 4-day retreat. It's a pilgrimage, but we'll cover every aspect of your business because it's not the little things that matter, it's everything that matters in your business. Get signed up now. Only 20 people. Put the link there, Marco, in the comments so that people have that. It's our 9th year. I'm really excited about this one, Freedom. I encourage you to be there. Cool? All right. We also have our It's Time group mentoring, and I invite anybody to sit in on one of our sessions that we have every week. Audit us, reach out to Marco, reach out to me for a discovery call. We'll be happy to talk to you why I believe it's better than anything out there, because we're not consultants, we're mentors. A consultant comes in and solves one singular problem. A mentor is with you for the long haul. And that is the difference, the big difference in what we do in the It's Time group mentoring. Put the link for that as well. Cool? All right. So I hope you got a lot out of today. Please go back and watch this again and again. Share it with people. You know, as a disruptor in the martial arts industry and being a third generation small business owner, my goal is to give you the type of content that's genuinely going to help you better your business in every shape, way, and form, and help you be a better version of yourself. Cool? So if you want to find me, subscribe to this podcast, Success Never Sleeps. It's on all the major podcast platforms. Do subscribe to my YouTube channel. All right, we got a lot of good learning there. Hundreds, thousands of hours at this point of genuine learning to help you live your best life. And then, of course, follow me at Instagram. And for everything else, go to brannonbeliso.com. Cool? Thank you for joining us for today's show. I am Brannon Beliso. This is Success Never Sleeps. Until we talk again, what are you going to go out there and do? Live your best life.